spent in a miserable way.
U.S. News Democrats in 2020 preaching unity, taking different paths to Washington Post. Fresco, Iowa. This year's bumper crop of Democratic presidential contenders all promise to unite the country after years of growing political polarization. But that's where the for senior Sherrod Brown did for us. It's not either or. Brown said on the Wednesday launch of his Dignity of Work tour, "You a potential precursor to a campaign announcement," you paraphrasing a line that Barack Obama previously borrowed from Martin Luther King Jr. "We will always do." Then Brown made clear his special connection to working-class white voters by traveling to a town of fewer than 4,000 residents in a rural county where Obama and Donald Trump won consecutive elections by more than 20 percentage points. "I worry about Democrats talking to workers and winning places like Howard County, and winning places where Democrats that do so well in small city Ohio and small city Iowa," he said after an event at the Iowa Wrestling Hall of Fame. For senior Cory Booker, in his first television appearance since launching his Bid Friday, he promised to fight a caustic type of politics that wants to pit us against each other and create the illusion of separateness. But instead of show, the different approaches have less to do with policy than political strategy, as the Democratic candidates remain relatively united on the broad direction of their policy focus: the need for more progressive tax policy, expanded health care coverage, and continued advancements in the fight against discrimination based on race, gender or sexual orientation. The areas in which, instead, the Democratic contenders are offering contrasting storylines for knitting the country back together at a time when racial, ethnic, gender and geographic differences increasingly determine political allegiance. Every candidate is choosing a different emphasis, and a lot of the conversation about false choices comes when we are being asked to say a difference in emphasis is about a difference in vision, said Pete Buttigieg, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and, like Booker, an announced presidential candidate. A military veteran in a same-sex marriage, Buttigieg is running for president with a campaign that emphasizes his youth and the Midwestern focus on the everyday problems of voters. The trick: Democratic strategists have long debated the best route for creating an electoral majority to take back the White House in 2020, with multiple visions that vary in their focus on increasing turnout by non-white voters, winning educated suburban voters and regaining margin among working-class whites. While Democrats, Trump has capitalized on these divisions by embracing demagogic rhetoric that tends to drive enthusiasm among a large share of the working-class white vote. He has launched, in response, Democrats have identified reunifying the country as a central theme for any winning Democratic nominee. The strategy has, "I think unity is the ultimate payday in the primary," said former Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper, who is preparing a campaign that will be based on his success bridging geographic and partisan divides in his state. There are divisions
Raindrop, drop top, smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park, pot.